Hey everyone, Social Solipsist here. Just wanted to do a really quick response video in reaction to the Nintendo Switch. I don't know exactly what they were calling it. This announcement press conference that they just did this evening. And I don't want to talk so much about the press conference as much as I want to talk about very briefly how much Nintendo is still the king of good PR uh, for their own stuff, and by that I mean when you look at something like E3 or something like that, and you look at these other big press conferences and the big announcements that are done by Sony and Microsoft, and of course a few others on the side. More often than not, at least for me, I get the feeling that this is very much it's a business announcement conference. It is a PR, you know, here it is, take a look at the flashy type of thing. And something that Nintendo does better than anyone else to this day, I think, in the video game space is the sheer joy and happiness that is and the passion that is behind the press conferences they give. Obviously, they have a bit of a different take on how to do their announcements and things like that. They run a lot of their stuff from their own, from their own offices and have been, they don't do the big presentations as often. But the biggest thing for me is just watching that press conference and saying, the people behind this, the people who are standing on that stage, are really happy to be there. They're eager to be there. They're eager to announce the thing that they've been working on for so long and have had to hide under their hats. And so many of those people are genuinely passionate. Obviously, for those of you who watched, there's the third parties who stood up on the stage, and you never feel that same sort of thing. Like the EA guy standing up on the stage and talking about FIFA, it's not that same level of passion. But even if it's a facade, I have to congratulate Nintendo on just a joyful, happy, excited press conference filled with lots of things that they really want to show the world. And that's admirable. We live in I mean, in more than just video games, we live in a cynical age, and I have learned long ago not to succumb to the hype train, but god damn if that didn't, yank my chain a little bit and really try and pull me in and get me on that hype train. And it's come the closest that anything else, closer than anything else in recent memory. Even things that properties that I'm really passionate about. That press conference was, to me, something pretty special. And it did make me excited for the Switch. There was some speculation over the last week or so, based on some leaked pricing from Walmart, I think, regarding the pricing of the console. But what we're hearing now is that it's going to be, at least in the US, it's going to be $300 for all of the key components. The console, the two controllers, the controller, like standalone controller part that you clip it onto, the dock, all of the required cables. And I think that's a really good price point. I think a lot of my concerns still stand as far as the design from my first video regarding long-term durability and the overall size of the thing. Obviously, they're aiming less at the handheld console market with this. I mean, they've made that very clear with their PR tonight, and especially over the last couple of months as well, that this is less a replacement handheld and more. I think they're recognizing that the mobile space is everybody has a phone, and mobile gaming is moving to phones. And obviously with things like Pokemon Go and the Mario game that they released for Android and iOS, or I think it's only iOS right now, they're very cognizant of where the market is going, or they're making predictions based on that. And so I think some of my concerns are going to be not alleviated, but they're mitigated by that's not the target they're going for. And so for $300, I think that's a really solid, especially if it drops in price. I mean, $300 for an entry for entry into a brand new console is unheard of. I mean, for a home console, I don't think any home console has ever gone. Well, I think the Wii and Wii U, I think maybe were that price originally. I honestly don't remember, but $300 for that, if it's as good as it appears to be, could be really, really good. Obviously, with the game announcements, there were a lot of games that they announced, a lot that they hinted at, things like the SMT game that is hinted at, probably SMT5. It's probably a long way off. They don't even have a name for it yet, and there are a number of games in that vein of a long way off, but are somewhat announced. But there's also a lot of clear, first party development. I forget what the boxing game was called, but that looked really solid, like a really solid idea. And obviously, there's plenty of ports that are going to happen. And when there isn't backwards compatibility, I think that's key. Is not pulling another Wii or Wii U, not pulling another console release without a catalog behind it. And even if that catalog is largely games that people already had access to or had access to an iteration of previously, that's not a terrible thing. It'd be great to have a catalog of 100 brand new games when the console comes out. But that's just not reasonable in this day and age. And so having the availability of that back catalog, I think is going to be a big boon towards those early sales of the console. It sounds like there aren't any. I mean, they haven't announced any other bundles besides the $300 console. So no games bundled with it, presumably. But we'll see how that happens. I'm sure there will be with time. And I guess we'll see if there are any other elite bundles or anything like that. I'm sure there will be special editions and skins for the various parts of the console, seeing as they're releasing two versions, a color and a gray. And so I think they're doing a lot of things right. And the announcements of the various games are, they're doing a couple of things really, really intelligently too with regards to their first party development. I think a lot of people speculated that the new Zelda game was not going to come out in time with the console, possibly not even this year. But this March 3rd date is apparently the console is going to be available then, and so is the new Zelda game. And I am not the hugest Zelda fan. I've had some good times with a few of the games. It's not something I grew up with or anything like that. And frankly, when they did their original press conference that was like 2 hours long, showing off all of the new Zelda game that they had at that point, I was not very excited for a multitude of reasons, not the least of which was the way they presented it was very piecemeal. It wasn't, they weren't showing any of the story whatsoever. But at the end of the day, watching the very last trailer that they ran right at the end of the press conference, that trailer looks amazing. I mean, not only visually, but it really seems to be potentially the strongest entry story-wise into the series. They've got a Zelda with full-on voice acting and emotions, and it pulled at me in a way I did not expect, certainly not from Zelda. And so it could potentially be really good, and I am sort of excited for it, surprisingly enough. So yeah, I think that hits on most of my feelings on this press conference that just happened. Again, props to Nintendo for just doing a good job and a happy press conference where they just really they were excited to show off what they had. And I do hope that, they don't that frankly, that they don't die. I'm hoping that Nintendo does not continue this trend of, poor showings. The last two consoles really that they've put out, the last two home consoles, have been middling, really. And they've been marred by a lot of issues with releases. And I really hope that that trend can end, because I think Nintendo has a lot to offer. And I'd like to see what what they can put out. So yeah, thank you guys for putting up with my short thoughts and rambles and things like that. I just, I watched that and I felt pretty good. So I wanted to put a video out. Anyway, thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.